Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast powered by Closers.io, where we dive into the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and explore the road ahead for them and their companies. I'm your host, Jay Encarnacion, and in each episode, we uncover the stories behind impactful ventures, the challenges faced along the way, and the strategies driving their future growth. Today, we are thrilled to have Stephen Lavergne, the CEO and co-founder of Meraki People Solutions. Stephen brings over 20 years of expertise in HR and talent acquisition, from healthcare to IT, having scaled recruiting for high-growth companies like Metro Mile and Cloudera. Based in Dallas, Texas, Meraki People Solutions, founded in 2022, is transforming HR consulting with a focus on employee engagement, diversity, and innovative solutions like their recent partnership with Blue Chip Insights. We'll be exploring his founding story, how his business empowers clients, and his vision for scaling this impactful venture. With that being said, let's dive right into it. Stephen, welcome to Founders Future.
Hey, Jay. Thanks for having me.
An absolute pleasure, man. An incredible background. I know we had a great conversation before the episode, so truly an honor to have you on the show today, Stephen. So if you can start at the top here for our listeners and take us back to the beginning, what specific problem in the HR consulting landscape really inspired you to start Meraki People Solutions?
Good question. My partner and I, we've had the good fortune of working at some amazing startups. I've been at 6, myself. And so having worked at those, having been on the ground floor, of those, employee number 50 and one of them, it was interesting when I got into those roles where the companies were just missing a lot. They had great products, but on the HR and the recruiting side, they were just lacking because they just didn't understand and didn't know. And that's not any fault of their own. People stay usually in the lanes where they're comfortable. And so that prompted us to really start having some conversations, also having worked at Fortune 500 companies, just seeing where companies were missing the boat when it came to what platforms they were using and how they were engaging with their people, change management, all those things where companies tend to lack a bit. And so having been around that for as long as I have, 26 plus years now, we looked at starting Meraki to kind of mitigate those problems. Not that they're all going to go away, because they won't, but as a company scales, do we have the right ATS? And a lot of them don't. And so is the ATS that we're going to use, they're getting inundated with calls, right? They sound good. Well, let's use this ATS. Well, that one's actually not great for scale. So that's where we come in to really talk with founders of companies, heads of CEOs, usually on the C-level side, to really say, this is one of the suggestions that we make. We're not really telling you to use X, but we're saying, if you use X, this is why you should use it. And this is going to check a lot of the boxes for you. And we're not selling anything at that, which is great. So that's where we are and what we've done to start and what prompted us to really start that and really kind of move the needle forward with companies.
I love it. So I definitely want to get into the nuts and bolts of what you're doing with Meraki here, Stephen, especially for our listeners who, once this airs, could very well want to come and work with you, utilize your services and what you're providing. Sure. So I have a 3-part question for you here, and it's going to be as far as what is the core offer? I know you do some fractional consulting, the analytics tools. How is that offer structured for your clients? And who is the ideal client that you like to work with here at Meraki?
Ideal client is usually startups. Now, we say that, but one of the first clients we landed was not a startup. Ideally, it's that whole thing. I look at it as kind of like when you're teaching. I think teachers do a phenomenal job, but I personally would have a struggle teaching junior high school. I would want more like elementary, where we can get them at the beginning and kind of mold them along the way, kind of like us, right? So we're a good example of coming into a startup, and the startup really doesn't have a lot of the formal structure when it comes to HR and recruiting. They've heard some things, they might be using agency, and then we come in and say, again, this is what we can offer, and this is how we can help structure. Some of the things that we've even done for some of our clients is not on-site, but being a virtual on-site person for them, right? So they say, well, we need a virtual talent leader for 3 months. That's where we might come in and say, one of us will do it, one of us on the team will do it, or we'll find somebody to come in while you're trying to find that permanent person. So that's where we're the nuts and bolts of how we work. I hope that answered the question for you. So.
Yeah, it sounds like as far as obviously you're working with startups mainly here. You can branch out as you guys have done already, but mainly focus on the startup side. And then as far as the offer, it really is just around that fractional consulting that you're providing, for those
Typically,
companies?
yeah, typically it's around the fractional part, but we can dive a bit deeper. Blue Chip was one of the clients where when we got in, I actually know one of the founders. And so we came in a little bit different with them, and we really started giving them more in depth than we probably would give some of our clients. But again, they were needing a lot of structure around and really educating around the HR and talent space and where their product could actually take off and really go. So we're open. I think when you're really having the nuts and bolts conversation around what a company wants to do, I think having been at startups, there's that everyone always says it puts a little rocket ship up. There's that rocket ship growth, right? And so us really sitting down with the leaders of the company saying, where do you see yourself now? And where do you see yourself a year, 2 years from now? When I was at Amplitude, which was a high growth company, I was employee 50 there. They had a lot of ambition. They were going after a lot of Fortune 500 companies. We grew exponentially. At Cloudera, the same thing. I think we grew over 1,000 people in 12 months. It's a lot of growth. And so really having the vision of how you want to see that growth happen and really sitting down with leaders to really educate them on probably not a good idea, or this is a great idea, or this is maybe the route that you should go down, just really their wheels turning. I find that the more receptive, because some leaders are not, the more receptive they are, the easier it is to make those changes. Nobody likes change management. Right. Let's be honest. That's a subject where people get uncomfortable, but really being able to say this area you probably need to not do as much in, or this other area we really need to put focus on and hire to. Leaders need to be a bit more receptive. That's probably the one advice I would probably give leaders.
I love it. I absolutely love that. So with that being said there, and that main focus being on that consulting side that you are coming in and helping these companies with on the HR and talent space, what's working best for you on the acquisition side for yourself, Stephen, as far as what channels have been most effective, whether it's referrals, ads, social media? What do you think now for?
That's a good question. Referrals are probably our biggest. We get a lot of people that my partner and I have both been in this for 25 plus years. So we have a very open, wide network. And so reaching out to people that are excited that we went out on our own and things like that, it's opened the doors, and people then call us and ask us certain questions. And then, hey, can we entertain this or that? Yeah, the thing we typically stay away from is the recruiting side. We've been in recruiting, but we typically stay away from that side. We can refer people out, but we typically want to just give them the nuts and bolts advice that they need. And we'll be with them however long on the journey. If they say, hey, we would love to engage with you for 6 months, we've been working with Blue Chip for, 3 years now. And so it's a conversation that we usually have at the beginning to find out where they want to go. But word of mouth business has usually been the best. We've done some advertising. We've got some people that, through that, but I think the word of mouth business is always, in my opinion, do be great, because people then have worked with us, and then they can say what you're going to get, or what to expect. Because we always encourage people to talk to people that we've worked with.
Absolutely. Definitely want to unbox that a bit with you, Stephen, for our listeners, just to get a bit more perspective. And that's going to be on, obviously, those referrals that come in are not always predictable. That's something that I've heard often on the show from other founders, relying a lot on referrals. How do you approach that, especially with the idea of scaling Meraki? What are you doing on that? You could do more around ads or more around social media. How are you going to approach that to have more predictability on the lead side?
Yeah, we've talked about, and we've ramped up the social media marketing, because I know that's a big one. What we usually talk to people about when they refer people is just doing a little bit more vetting to see if it's even a fit. Because one of the things I usually tell people, I posted on LinkedIn, quite a bit, is time is valuable, and I don't want to waste anyone's time. I don't want someone to waste mine. So having a couple of questions asked, or a few questions asked, to vet them and say, this is a good client. I think the thing that people struggle with is having the hard conversation of, you're not a good client. And then, they're possibly business walking out the door. But do you want the potential headache later? Do you want the potential problems later? Usually people don't. So I do the same thing whenever I refer. I usually talk to people and say, hey, I want to refer. What should I know? And what don't you want? What's a client that you want to stay away from, the kind of client? And so I think just a lot of people in our networks know us, and they kind of know what we're like. I refuse to do business with anybody on the unethical side. I don't care how much money it is, what that contract looks like. And so we built Meraki that way, to where we work on the up and up. And if somebody comes in with shady practices or things like that, we're happily walking them out the door, just not even accepting. So, and people that know us know that, which is good. So
I love it. I love that. I love that. Is it just you and your co-founder right now, Stephen, that are running the show, or do you have a marketing team?
Yeah, it's me and our co-founder. I'll throw a little nugget out there. We have been, we working and doing our consulting this. One of the things we're working on, and you're going to be probably one of the first to hear this. We've talked to a few others, but we are quietly working on building a AI enhanced applicant tracking system. And so to go along with what we were talking about earlier with companies is we've seen where obviously we've worked in recruiting for a long time. 95%, if not a higher percentage of applicant tracking systems are built and made from tech guys. They're not recruiters. They're not HR people. So they're usually all missing something. We spent 6 months with a team building and designing an ATS. We just need to find the right people to build it. And we're going to build it, probably work on it, and then it'll probably take about 8 or 9 months, and then we plan on putting it to market. So it'll be a part of our package that we didn't expect, but we're going to roll it out, and it's going to be great, I think. And that might even pivot our consulting a bit. We actually have consulting built into. We're going to have that built actually into the ATS
into the system. That's cool.
So it's going to be cool. When we first designed this and we presented it to some tech people, their mouths hit the floor. They're like, we've never seen anything like this. This will be great. So it'll be a different approach. It'll be more from a recruiter's approach. And we tried to look at the 3 pillars in recruiting and what happens. And that's usually the candidate experience, the hiring manager experience, and then the recruiter experience, because they're the ones using it. And a lot of the ATSs don't really do that. They'll look at a bit, but we really dove into how to make a candidate's experience red carpet and white glove, how to make the hiring managers red carpet and white glove. So it's easy to use. There's a lot of fun functionality, but I could really give it to you today. You could be using it by the end of the day with no issues. And we wanted that to happen. So yeah, it's going to be fun. We're excited about it and working through a few kinks, but yeah, we're definitely excited, and it's going to pivot a bit, but we'll still do the consulting stuff because I think that's important. But this is going to be one of I should say it's my baby that I've been working on and wanted it for a while.
Amazing. For obviously, that's going to be more in the next year that's going to be coming out and really focus on that. So for now, are you the one that's running the sales for Meraki when those leads do come?
Yes. Yeah.
Are you planning with that to put yourself in more of the founder role, maybe hire, setter, closer, have more on a sales team perspective? How are you approaching that as you continue to scale?
Oh man, I've been doing it. I have been in that role for almost since we started. I'm the person reaching out to venture capital firms and a lot of stuff with sales. So usually it's anything sales related. I'm taking care of reaching out, talking to other C-levels and founders and things like that. That's kind of my thing. My partner is more technical, and so he handles more of when we get to that conversation, sitting down with them, kind of handle more of the technical stuff in and out. And then he'll do more of the research on the company. So if it's a tech company, he got accepted into MIT and he's a brainiac. So he'll look at some things and then really see where we can come in and offer even better assistance or even give them some ideas as well. So yeah.
I love that. What can you point to right now then, Stephen, as a couple of the bottlenecks you're thinking about, whether it is around that predictability on the lead gen side or bringing on a sales team? What are you thinking about as bottlenecks that you need to solve to continue that growth and scale?
You know what, Jay, I'll be honest. The thing we've seen as being the biggest bottleneck is founders thinking they don't need us right now.
Yes.
And we've been around for a bit now, but reaching out, and I can show you some emails, it's crazy, where founders have basically, you know what, Stephen, we're good right now. We're handling everything through referrals, and we don't need anything. And I'm like, that's part of the problem. When you get to that point of, I say no return, once you start reaching a certain level of employees, you're then trying to backpedal and go back to, it's almost like a good example, Jay, is like when you talk to a company about DEI, right? And they go, yeah, we'll do DEI now. It's a great time. The company's about 400 or 500 people. Man, you missed that boat a long time ago, because now you're trying to backtrack and figure out how you can incorporate DEI and we've had these conversations with founders. That's something that you need to build your company foundation on. You build that foundation on DEI, it never leaves you. And then you don't have to muddy the waters a bit and say, let's put Stephen in this role and he's our guy. And it looks weird. And so it needs to be organic, and it needs to be something that you're passionate about. And if leaders are not passionate about it, then move on to something else. But I think that's where we found the biggest struggle, is really trying to get them to understand, actually, you need us when there's not a lot going on, because as soon as there's things going on, you're going to be hit with 101 things, especially your product's growing. So as you grow, your product grows, your audience grows, your customer base grows, and then all of a sudden you're trying to like swim in the current, and you really didn't have to do that. And so that's been the biggest challenge that we've had, is really getting founders to understand. That's why I said earlier, really getting founders to be amenable to change management and be open to bringing these guys in and letting them tell us what we need to do, and working with us, because we're going to partner with you. We're not going to be barking out orders, but really partnering with them to really say, this is what's going to help you guys really reach that next level of growth and opportunity. And it's like I say, the duck in the water syndrome, right?
Yeah.
But below the surface, the feet are going, but on the surface, the duck's really smooth across the water. Companies are the same thing. It can be a little bit chaotic underneath, and we're getting the things in place for you. But on the top, to your customers, man, things are running smooth. It looks good, and then it's more inviting for them as well too. Because if the people aren't happy inside, it's really going to be tough to really get that growth.
Absolutely. Absolutely. With that, I do just have a couple more questions for you,
Yeah.
Steve, before we do wrap up. And it's going to be more along the lines of how you see the HR consulting industry evolving in the coming years. Obviously, we have a great picture of your vision for the next year, what you're working on with the ATS and what you're doing there. So where do you see the consulting industry going in the coming years, especially with your focus on that employee-centric solution? And how are you positioning yourself to take advantage of that?
Yeah, I think we're doing two things. The ATS is one, because we have to adapt to AI, and we have to adapt to things moving in that direction. As much as we don't want, we're there, right? We're in an AI world, and I say not even country, a world where AI is. But one of the things when we started to build and design the ATS, I told the team, I don't want an ATS that is so AI centric that it takes away from the customer feel and touch, right? Relationship building, AI can't replace that. I'm sorry. It just can't ever do that. And so that's where we're trying to stay relevant, but also, if it makes sense, stay old school. Because as I tell everybody that I talk to, one of the things I've learned from one of my mentors getting into recruiting was build relationships that last. And so we believe that building relationships is the key and the cornerstone, the foundation to no matter what you add, whether it be more technology, more people to the business, it needs to always still be that relationship centric business where back in the right, where a handshake meant something.
Yes.
So it's the same thing, right? A handshake means something to me. It means something to Meraki. And so as we evolve, we're still trying to keep that side of it, but we also know we need to adapt. And so we're doing both. I think that's where companies are missing the boat. They're trying to go way to the ATS. When we were doing our research, there was a company that went way far right on the ATS side of it. And we did a demo, and me and my partner left the demo, and we're like, I wouldn't use that if you paid me, because it was just so robotic, and it felt very like museum. And so we want it to be like, hey, that's a warm and fuzzy. It means something that Stephen and Kevin are hands-on, and this approach, and they're not pawning us to the AI part of things. So I think that's where we're looking to stay relevant, but also still incorporate the old, if I may, it's that whole, I got a new car, I'm going to keep that 8-track or the cassette, like whatever. Right? That's where we're looking at, but the car's fancy, it rides nice. Some of that old school music is on that 8-track or on that cassette. So I think we understand the importance, but we also want to make sure that people understand too, like that's what they're going to get with us, right? They're going to get that look in the eye, that handshake, and that we're going to make it right regardless and do the right thing no matter what.
Love it. I absolutely love that. And just one more question for you here, Stephen, before we wrap up. And it's going to be for our listeners. What is the best piece of advice that you can give to our listeners? Obviously, you're doing so much in your career, have already seen so much success, have so much drive. What can you give them before we wrap up the show today?
This might ruffle some feathers. But I would tell everybody this: keep God first.
Yeah.
That for me has been the mainstay, because my parents are ministers and really taught me ethical work behavior. And a lot of it's left the business nowadays. We see it in the country now. And I try to keep God first and really, make sure that I am doing the right thing always, regardless of who's looking and who's watching. If it means more politically correct, then just doing the right thing, doing it always, and not succumbing to the shady deals and to the back end deals and things like that. If we had more of that now, I think things would be a lot different, more accountability and things like that. But I always try to make sure that I'm doing the right thing.
I love it. I love that. With that right there, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to wrap up another inspiring episode of Founders Future. And Stephen, truly cannot thank you enough for coming on the show, sharing your incredible journey and your insights with us. And as I mentioned earlier, I mean, just the drive, the passion, the intelligence that you have, clear as day, that you're going to continue to do some incredible things. So it's been an honor and a pleasure to hear from you today. And to our listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe to Founders Future wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. And also check out Meraki People Solutions at merakiips.co for their transformative HR services. And follow Stephen on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/in/S Lavergne20. For more resources and insights, you can visit us here at closers.io, where we're dedicated to helping businesses accelerate their growth. Until then, keep climbing, and we will see you on the next one.